Atlantic put out an article last year, and it was called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense."
Right.
And talked about how we separate sports like the WNBA and just because it's just socialization. This is insane.
I agree.
Okay. That's why people vote for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's stuff like that on the left that people just go, I know Trump's horrible, but separating sports by sex makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. And if you think it doesn't, you can't lead the country. Well, Senator Schiff, given the ongoing political tensions and Trump's actions toward his critics, do you think President Biden's preemptive pardons turned out to be more important than initially expected? Let's first tell people what that means, preemptive pardons. That was pretty unprecedented, right? Before he left office, Joe Biden pardoned you and a number of people who he thought Trump would go after.
No, I take the opposite view. I don't think he should have given the pardons at all.
Really?
No, I don't think he should have, and I was vocal about that at the time.
Can you refuse a pardon?
That's less clear because in the case of the January 6th committee, he pardoned essentially the whole committee.
Maher recently set his sights on Adam Schiff during his show, and it was equal parts hilarious and shocking. With one unexpected question, he exposed what many see as Schiff's double standards. The moment was brief, but it hit hard. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and let's dive in.
This statement from the administration: the president had the constitutional authority to direct the use of military force because he could reasonably determine that such use of force was in the national interest. That's too vague for you?
Totally vague.
Okay, because that's from Obama about Libya.
Well, Obama made the argument initially that he could go into Syria without an authorization. I and many others pushed back on that argument. Ultimately, he did not go forward with going after Assad, even though Assad was gassing his own people, because he thought he might lose the vote in Congress. But I respect the fact that that was important to him, and the fact that he did not have the support of Congress meant that we weren't going to go forward.
Did you catch that exchange? Maher read a statement to Adam Schiff explaining the reasoning behind intervention in Libya. But here's the twist. He didn't reveal it was originally said by Obama. Schiff, assuming it came from Trump, quickly dismissed it as vague and unclear before awkwardly pivoting to another topic. The moment spoke volumes. Had Schiff known the quote was Obama's, it's unlikely he would have reacted the same way. His response highlighted how context and political bias can shape judgment. Maher's setup wasn't just clever, it exposed what critics argue is a clear double standard, and that's the core issue.
I don't share your pessimism about this or your pessimism about the general election. The reason why Joe Biden is going to beat Donald Trump is because at the end of the day, America is going to want a president who is a decent human being, who doesn't shit on other people, who has some interest in the American people, some interest in something beyond himself. I think at the end of the day, people are going to reject this bigoted, divisive figure.
Interestingly, this ties into Schiff's earlier predictions before the 2024 election. He seemed confident about the outcome, but when the results didn't match expectations, the reaction felt almost stunned. Trump's support wasn't limited to his base. Alongside loyal conservatives, he drew backing from unexpected groups, including some moderate and even liberal-leaning voters. That broader appeal helped him secure key battlegrounds and build momentum nationwide. For critics, Schiff's reaction reflects a deeper disconnect, an inability to fully grasp the electorate's shifting mood. It's a reminder that even seasoned politicians don't always read the public as well as they think.
Just getting tired of seeing so much stuff targeted in his direction, but somehow, some way he still survives. I mean, we're talking about a situation where he's still going to be the GOP nominee. He's still going to be running for president. You're President Biden. That's the individual that you're going to have to beat. 4 indictments, 91 counts. They ain't even bringing up the bankruptcies, ain't even bringing up this particular issue with this civil case, and somehow, some way, he puts cats to shame because he clearly has more than 9 lives. I mean, come on.
Think about the sheer volume of opposition Trump faced. From media criticism to serious allegations and harsh political labeling, the pressure was constant. The strategy seemed clear: discredit him at every turn, and yet despite all of it, he remained politically relevant and continued to gain support. That outcome says something important. It suggests that messaging alone doesn't control public opinion. Voters weigh what they hear against what they see in real life. At a certain point, narratives hit a ceiling, and when they do, people start making up their own minds.
Atlantic put out an article last year, and it was called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense."
Right.
And talked about how we separate sports like the WNBA just because it's just socialization. This is insane.
I agree.
Okay. That's why people vote for Trump. Because there's stuff like that on the left that people just go, I know Trump's horrible, but separating by sports by sex makes perfect sense. And if you think it doesn't, you can't lead the country.
That's exactly the argument many supporters make. They see Trump and the GOP as more direct and transparent in communication. With Trump, it's often described as what you see is what you get, unfiltered for better or worse. That blunt style resonates with voters tired of scripted talking points. On the other hand, critics argue that figures like Schiff often come across as overly calculated, with positions that feel less clear the deeper you look. Whether that perception is fair or not, it plays a huge role in shaping loyalty. In today's political climate, authenticity, real or perceived, often matters more than polish.
Senator Schiff, given the ongoing political tensions and Trump's actions toward his critics, do you think President Biden's preemptive pardons turned out to be more important than initially expected? Let's first tell people what that means, preemptive pardons. That was pretty unprecedented, right? Before he left office, Joe Biden pardoned you and a number of people who he thought Trump would go after.
No, I take the opposite view. I don't think he should have given the pardons at all.
Really?
No, I don't think he should have, and I was vocal about that at the time.
Can you refuse a pardon?
That's less clear because in the case of the January 6th committee, he pardoned essentially the whole committee.
Now here, where things get even more interesting. Schiff argued that President Biden shouldn't have issued pardons to members of the January 6th committee because, in his view, they had nothing to fear. But that raises an obvious question. If everything was completely above board, why issue pardons in the first place? For some observers, that contradiction stands out. While there's no concrete evidence of wrongdoing, the optics alone invite scrutiny. And in today's political environment, unanswered questions tend to stick around.
Jeff came in and arrested the judge. No, I haven't heard that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever read arrested a judge. So is this significant?
Well, I think
I'm not going to comment on something I don't know more about than what you've just told me.
You read about it too.
Yeah, I mean, I read about it, but I don't know.
So you don't trust anything either, and you work for the New York Times.
Well,
It's also worth noting voices like Bret Stephens, who has openly criticized aspects of his own outlet, the New York Times. When insiders question their own institutions, it naturally raises eyebrows. Critics argue that major media organizations may lean toward narratives that drive engagement, often favoring negative coverage, especially around figures like Trump. At the same time, internal disagreement can also signal diversity of thought rather than coordinated bias. Still, for audiences already skeptical, moments like these reinforce existing doubts about how stories are framed.
That was our big gun. Now it just looks like you're stalking him. I think in the eyes of the people who don't follow it that closely, which is most of the country, here's the thing about Bob Mueller. He's like the last person, maybe the last thing in America that left and right agreed on. Left and right basically agreed. This is a guy of honor. This is an honest guy. This is an honest broker. Whatever he says goes. Americans are not into details. Don't read it to me, Bob. Just give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down. The fact that he was like, if you couldn't impeach before, how are you going to impeach after?
This is where Maher really drives his point home. He reminds Schiff of the intense investigations into Trump before, during, and after his presidency. The expectation was clear, that something definitive would emerge. Yet, as Maher points out, special counsel Robert Mueller did not establish a criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. For critics, that outcome raises questions about how confidently certain claims were pushed at the time. It fuels an ongoing debate about accountability, media narratives, and how far investigations should go before they begin to erode public trust.
Stop talking about Trump. We talk about him too much. We want to tell people what we're going to do for them. Healthcare, environment, those kind of issues. For example, I've seen you on TV a lot in the last couple of years. I know everything you know, or that you tell us, about the Russian situation. I don't have a clue what you think about healthcare. I've never heard it.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you're for Medicare for all, or improve Obamacare, or get a chicken. I don't know what.
When you step back, a bigger pattern starts to take shape. The exchange between Maher and Schiff reflects a broader frustration with inconsistency in politics and media. Whether it's shifting standards, selective outrage, or narratives that don't fully hold up, the trust gap continues to grow. Figures like Trump benefit from that disconnect, as supporters see him as an alternative to what they view as overly polished messaging. Of course, critics argue that perception doesn't always equal reality. But in today's environment, authenticity, consistency, and transparency carry more weight than ever. And with that, we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next.